To get started, we have to realize that slope is a graphical concept. To understand it, you must know how to graph ordered pairs. So let's start with that. Ordered pairs display relationships between variables. If an ordered pair has the form parentheses x comma y, then the ordered pair relates the value of x to the value of y. To graph an ordered pair, we're going to use a pair of intersecting number lines representing each variable. Let's graph the ordered pair 2, 3. This pair means you have to go over 2 to the right and up 3. So 2 along the x-axis, because the 2 is in place of the x, and then 3 along the y-axis. That places it in the first quadrant. Now let's try graphing the ordered pair -4, 1. This places the ordered pair in the second quadrant, and that means we have to go 4 units in the x direction. Because it was negative, we're going to the left, and 1 unit in the y direction. Now, I've been talking about where it places these, but in fact there are 4 quadrants when you intersect two number lines. In the upper right is quadrant 1, where the x is positive and the y is positive. In the upper left is quadrant 2, where the x is negative and the y is positive. In the lower left here, we have x negative and y negative, and that's quadrant 3. And then in the lower right, where x is positive and y is negative, that's quadrant 4. Now that we have an idea of where these quadrants are, let's go ahead and define what slope is. So slope, which usually uses the letter m, is simply the vertical change in the line divided by the horizontal change of the line. The formula that you'll see in textbooks is y2 minus y1, because the difference in the y values is the vertical change, and x2 minus x1, and that is the horizontal change. If we represent that graphically with 2 arbitrary points here located at x1, y1, x2, y2, we can really see that. y2 minus y1 is the vertical change, x2 minus x1 is the horizontal change. Most of you have already studied this in either beginning, intermediate, or college algebra, but let's go ahead and really think about what slope means in the context of a real problem. Here's some data, and this data shows the number of cars produced at a factory after a shift has operated for some number of hours. After 2 hours, they've made 5 cars. After 4 hours, 10 cars. After 6 hours, 15 cars. I can graph these points if I put hours along the bottom and cars vertically. So I see a point at 2:05, 4:10, and 6:15. What we want to do is quantify how fast cars are being produced. So we could say 15 cars were produced in 6 hours, 10 cars were produced in 4 hours, or 5 cars were produced in 2 hours. So you'll probably notice that there's a definite pattern here. How many cars would be produced in 1 hour? Well, if 5 cars were produced in 2 hours and half that time, it would be 2.5 cars. Notice that if we take 15/6 and divide it by 10/4, or divide 5 divided by 2, all of these equate to 2.5. So all of the numbers in the statements that I mentioned before actually can be thought of as 2.5 cars per hour. Let's look at it from a different viewpoint. Let's figure out what the slope is between the point 2, 5 and the point 4, 10. We have our definition of slope. M equals the quantity y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1, and now let's match up these two ordered pairs and put them into the formula. So that means that we're going to take 10 minus 5 divided by 4 minus 2. If we work out the top and the bottom on that, that gives us 5/2. Divide it out, That gives us that same 2.5. So what we're noticing is that slope in some way has to do with how fast things are happening. Let's put some units with these. Notice that the numbers 10 and 5, which subtracted to give us 5, that had to do with cars. And the 4 minus 2, which gave us the 2, that has to do with hours. So in effect, when we said this, we were saying 5 cars divided by 2 hours. So that's 2.5 cars per hour. The division equates to divide. So the rate at which cars are produced, 2.5 cars per hour, is exactly the same as the slope. This number is positive since the production of cars is increasing over time.